Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Thanks for checking out my video. So we've done loads of videos now on theory, scales, chords, notation, blah 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 blah. So today I thought we'd start looking at some more musical examples and specifically how we can actually apply some of those scales into some simple and effective licks in the styles of some of our heroes. Today I thought I would start off by showing you some simple licks in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan. So Stevie Ray is definitely one of my biggest guitar heroes and one of my main influences. If you haven't listened to Stevie Ray before and you want to get better at playing blues, most specifically Texas blues, definitely give him a listen. The best starting point is probably either with the first album, Texas Flood, or the second album, Couldn't Stand the Weather. Both are absolute masterpieces in my opinion, and if you get the second album, it's definitely worth spending a little extra to get the deluxe edition, which features many awesome bonus tracks. Stevie Ray Vaughan is definitely one of the greatest blues stars, especially of that 1980s blues revival era. One of the great things for us about Stevie Ray Vaughan is that as the main bulk of his career and recordings were made throughout the 80s, the records we have of his playing are of much better quality than many of, say, the 50s or 60s blues stars. And as such, this can make his music probably a little easier to get into when compared to some older, scratchy or sparse recordings. Another great thing is with Stevie Ray is he does play a lot of straight 12-bar arrangements, but there are many songs where he goes beyond that. Songs like Testify, Love Struck Baby, and Lenny from the first album, or Couldn't Stand the Weather, the title track, or Stang Swang from the second, really pushed the blues style into more experimental areas while still keeping that undeniable Texas sound. Even with the most regular 12-bar songs, you may still find that no two pieces are really too similar, as Stevie's guitar parts are both incredibly inventive and very varied. He earns his place as a true guitar hero with his bold, exciting, and interesting instrumental pieces, and also pays frequent homage to his own blues heroes by creating new inventive arrangements of many classic blues numbers. Texas Flood, Mary Had a Little Lamb, Wham, Hideaway, Voodoo Child, Little Wing, Close to You, all covers of some great stars. Much more of a purist in regards to tone. I'm pretty sure Stevie's setup was pretty simple, especially on the first album, where I think he was probably just going straight into his amp, maybe one pedal. Occasionally he does add in other effects on certain songs, probably a bit of influence from Hendrix initially and other guitarists of the day, but again experimenting a bit further from a lot of those classic blues tones. So firstly, how do we get the Stevie Ray tone? Well, as far as I know, Stevie used a couple of big Fender vibroverbs or super reverbs, or maybe twins, for his OD sounds. I would imagine these amps would be absolutely cranked to get that full natural breaking tube amp sound. And I think he used either Marshall or Dumbbell for his cleans. I've also heard he started using a Marshall stack along with the Dumbbell later in his career. But anyway, essentially, any sort of Fender tube amp or similar lower gain amp that you can crank up should definitely get you in the ballpark. And when I say crank it, I mean crank it. Quite often, valve amps become something completely different when they are running at optimum level. You can use pedals to push further or imitate that sound, but simply turning your amp up should get you a lot closer than you can imagine. So, what pedals do we need? Well, really, there is only one answer to this question, and it is this: the Ibanez Tube Screamer. There are definitely mixed reports of which one Stevie actually used, but most documentation, I think, confirms he used one of these, the TS9. From what I've read, Stevie would max the volume on the pedal with the drive setting really low, so really aiming to just push that amp further and get more natural breakup. For me, this pedal really is one of the keys to Stevie's tone. I tried a lot of different things for a long time to get closer to the Stevie sound, and this did it for me. As soon as I got one of these, I felt like I was a lot closer, along with obviously my Fender guitar and amp. This pedal, it really provides like a thicker or muddier natural sounding overdrive without boosting too much high frequencies and becoming too thin, which is what I found a lot of OD pedals out there do. I find a Tube Screamer really interacts well with a lot of amps as well. Rather than changing too much of the amp sound, it just seems to sort of naturally push it that little bit further, or a lot, or depending on how high you set it. But almost like adding the icing on top of a cake, if that makes sense. Truly a great sounding pedal, definitely worth the price. I've been using mine for more than 10 years now. Basically indestructible, cannot recommend it enough. If you wanted to try something else or something cheaper, a straight booster may be a good option. MXR do a really good one. I also use one of these. But there are also many Tube Screamer imitation pedals out there. Electro Harmonics do the East River Drive, and that is a really good alternative, and I think it's probably about half the price. And also Mua do one called the Green Mile, so definitely check both of those out if you don't want to spend $200 or whatever it is for the actual TS9. There is also the Mini Tube Screamer, which I think is only about $50 now. So yeah, definitely give that one a look as well. Stevie Ray did also use Jimi Hendrix's Voxwah, fuzz face pedals, Octavia pedal, and a rack Roland chorus effect, and occasionally a full vibratone rotating speaker. However, simply the Tube Screamer and a good amp should really be sufficient for most of his work. The last and most important part of Stevie's rig is obviously the guitar. A Stratocaster. Stevie used a 59 Rosewood neck strap most of the time. Now these pickups would have obviously been vintage spec, and as they would have been made before the CBS buyout period of Fender, they most likely would have been hand wound. Now I frequently play a lot of Stevie style on a maple neck strat, so you can go either way, but I would say a decent set of pickups will really help you out. You don't need to spend mega bucks, but something a little better than maybe standard stock pickups will really get you a bit closer to the sound. In my blonde strat in the video, I think I have a set of Fender custom shop 54s, which I really, really like. And I think they get me really close, obviously with the Tube Screamer as well. I also have a set of Lace Sensors Hot Golds in another Strat, and in a Rosewood neck Strat I have a set of Fender Custom Shop 69s, and both of those as well, really, really good, really, really close to the sort of sound you want. Another few ways to boost your Stevie tone is trying to go up a gauge or two in strings. From what I've read, Stevie mainly used 13 gauge strings, but even experimented kind of as high as 17s at one point. His normal gauges were, I think, 13, 15, 19, 28, 38, 58. If his fingers were aching, he cut back to a 12. But for the majority of his career, his famous number 1 and Lenny Strats were strung up like this. His guitar is also tuned to E flat. Now this could be to make playing a little easier with such heavy strings. It could be to make singing some of the songs easier, or could simply be a homage to Hendrix, who also did the same. All in all though, when playing with thicker strings, it will provide you a thicker, fatter tone, and dropping all strings by a semitone will reduce tension and make everything slightly easier for you to play. Thick strings usually also require higher action, and sometimes that can also add more to your tone as the strings have more space to vibrate. So anyway, what is Stevie Ray actually doing musically? Well, although Stevie's playing is very fast and technical, most of the time he really is sticking to both the major and minor blues scales. There are definitely some songs or other small parts where things get a bit more experimental, but generally for a lot of his numbers he is mixing both the major and minor blues scales, usually with a much heavier lean on the minor blues sound. Although the licks are fast, they are very rhythmic. The first time I heard Stevie Ray, my mind could not even keep up with it. But really, once you start slowing down the music and breaking up a lot of his solos, they can actually be quite simple to work out. A lot of his licks use the triplet rhythm, which goes along with the rolling shuffle of the Texas blues. He also uses a lot of the same licks over multiple songs. So once you've worked out a few different solos, you may find certain licks popping up when you start listening to other tracks, which is obviously great and makes our job a lot easier when we're trying to work out some of what he's doing. I would definitely say as well, don't be afraid to be a little messy. Although Stevie's playing can be very technical and precise, there's sometimes a lot of dirt mixed in with that. There's lots of bends, quarter steps, half steps, even full steps, loads of vibrato, loads of hammer-ons, loads of pull-offs. Stevie also likes to use his tremolo bar fairly often in a kind of Hendrix sort of style, so definitely experiment a bit with that as well. Anyway, that's probably enough info. I've tried to put a few simple licks together here in this video with the tabs. Hopefully you can learn these and start putting them into your own playing, or use them as a starting point to create your own. Yeah, alright, let's check them out.